resto mods, classic cars that have been converted to run on electric power. It's all the rage, isn't it? And there's plenty of old cars that it's happened to. The original Mini, the MGB, the Porsche 356, the Porsche 911, the Jaguar E-Type, and of course the Land Rover Defender. And now we have this, the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. Except this isn't a conversion. This isn't an old G-Wagon that's been converted to run on electric power, because this is a brand new electric G-Wagon that's built by Mercedes-Benz themselves. You can walk into your local Mercedes-Benz showroom today and exchange for a cheque for £155,000, walk out with a G-Wagon that's not got a V8 under the bonnet, but has not one, not two, but 4 electric motors underneath it. What has the world come to? Welcome to this week's road test review. Welcome to the frankly ridiculous Mercedes-Benz G580 with EQ technology. And yes, that is its name. And as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now, before I get started on this week's review of the Mercedes-Benz G580 with EQ technology, we're going to get bored of hearing that name all the way through here, I have to have a little bit of a word with you, because it would appear that there are still some people out there who are not subscribed to the AutoEV channel. Now, if that's you, would you please consider becoming a subscriber? And then when you've done that, make sure you turn on your notifications so that you get an alert when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live, so you don't miss one. Once you've watched this week's review, obviously if you enjoy it, and I hope you do, if you give it a little thumbs up, we'd really appreciate it. And of course, as always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars we feature on the channel, such as, well, the G-Wagon, and of course on the AutoEV channel overall. Now, here's the thing. The G-Wagon, the bit like the Defender. Now, Land Rover, when they came round to sort of like having to replace the Defender, said, we can't do it. We can't really, it would be so cost inefficient to sort of like do all this stuff to the Defender, to bring it up to modern day, you know, safety and emission standards and all this of it. It's just not worth doing it. So they changed it so comprehensively to a different model that only the name remains the same, really. The new Defender really shares nothing but the name with the old one. Mercedes-Benz didn't do that. Mercedes-Benz, when they had to change the G-Wagon, looked at it and went, actually, we can probably make that work for modern day. And that's what they did. They comprehensively re-engineered the G-Wagon to make it fit into modern day life, because they knew that the G-Wagon customers loved it so much. If they changed it to be, well, anything other than a G-Wagon, well, it would just upset them. So that's what they did. And of course, up till now, you've been able to buy it with both petrol and diesel models. And of course, they sell quite well, especially the big petrol AMG ones, especially around about me in Surrey. But they teased us with an electric concept not that long since ago. They said that they could make the G-Wagon electric. And we all thought, yeah, great, all the rest of it, whatever. And it's just a concept car. No, here it is. This is it. This is a fully fledged production car from Mercedes-Benz. And as I say, it's a really clever car. It's a ridiculous car, and I'll go on to talk about that a little bit more through the review, but it's also a very, very clever car. And I think this really broadens the appeal of the G-Wagon itself. How much? Well, let's stick it through an AutoEV road test review and find out. But as always, before we even start the review, let's take a look at the main bullet points about the new Mercedes-Benz G580 with EQ technology. So as I said, initially shown as a concept, the new G580 with EQ technology sits alongside petrol and diesel versions of the car to give customers the choice of 3 drivetrain options in the legendary G-Wagon. It's still a ladder frame chassis that underpins the car, but drive is achieved via 4 electric motors, each with 2 gears and each powering an individual wheel. The combined power output is 587 horsepower. It has a usable battery capacity of 116 kilowatt hours that can see the car travel for up to 283 miles between charges, according to WLTP tests. And prices start from just under £155,000 before options, which is a ridiculous amount of money. But then, this is a ridiculous car. Ridiculously good? Well, the only way we're going to find that out is by putting it through the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle. The AutoEV one, of course. So, styling. Well, it's a G-Wagon. and it looks like a G-Wagon, and let's be honest, you know, it's looked the same since, well, the G-Wagon was first introduced. I mean, there are some changes to it, which I'll take you through, but look, let's not get hung up on whether or not this is a good looking car or not, shall we? It's just a G-Wagon. It looks exactly the same as any other G-Wagon. They've changed little bits of it for the G580 with EQ technology. It's got a different bonnet to the internal combustion engine cars, because obviously they're trying to make it as aerodynamic as they possibly can, which is a problem when you've got something that basically looks like St Paul's Cathedral and is about as big as it as well. So this centre sort of like section here is raised up. You don't get that on the combustion engine cars, because obviously what they're trying to do is direct a bit of airflow up here. And I don't know if you can see this up here, they've got this sort of like bigger, sort of like, they call it a spoiler, but I'm not really sure that's a spoiler. But basically at the top of the windscreen there, they've got like an area there to help them curve the airflow around and up over the roof. And then these bits down the side here as well, these seals down the side there, again, they're designed to sort of like just help move the air round and down the side of the car as much as it can. But yeah, let's not kid ourselves on here. This ain't slipping through the air like some beautiful sort of like, you know, sort of like concept car or anything. It's a G-Wagon. You get the LED light technology on the front. They've managed to update it while still retaining the looks of the old car, which is excellent, I think. So you get the LED light technology. The European cars, I think, get a choice of grills. You can have the infilled grill that you get with the Mercedes-Benz other EQ products, which I don't like, I have to admit. I'm glad that we didn't get that in the UK. It is, you know, just a big open grill that you get on the UK cars. Now, this is a matte, one of these matte finish metallic blues. I'm not a big lover of this paint finish, personally speaking, but colour's a personal choice. My other half, Liz, loved the colour of it. She really thought this looked amazing. A couple of friends have gone, wow, really love the look of that. There's other people like me going, like it, but I don't know if I'd have it like that. I am glad they didn't do the whole AMG thing on the car, though. That's the one thing I will say. I do get the appeal with the AMG G-Wagon things that some people have, especially around about in London and stuff. But personally, I think they work really best without all the fripperies and things on it. So I'm quite glad they didn't. I'd have it a nice sort of like dark green metallic with like a light interior. That would be my sort of choice, and without these sort of black wheels. But we'll talk about those in a second. Of course, you still get your big marker lights at the top there, which is excellent, you know, so you can see where the edge of the bonnet is as well. And it is sort of tidied up down here, you know, it's all sort of smoothed over this front bumper area, you know, the sort of little sections there, and a little bit of the kind of chrome there to match the grille there. There's a camera that's down in there, which obviously helps with off-roading. Huge amount of ground clearance, as you'd expect, you know, for the type of off-road car that it is. But yeah, it's instantly recognisable as what it is, which is a massive big Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. So G-Wagon only comes in 5 doors now. You don't get the old 3-door like you used to decades ago, so it's just a 5-door car. 20-inch alloy wheels, standard. These wheels, quite nice actually. I'm not a big lover of black wheels, but they are aero wheels. And the reason why I'm saying I quite like them is because Mercedes-Benz, when they do the aero style wheels on things like the EQE and the EQS, they look a bit cheap and tacky. I don't think they do on this car. I think it works quite well, this sort of aero finish on them. Don't really like all the black, but that's a personal choice again. You get your little EQ badge there. You get more aerodynamic style mirrors with the cameras embedded in there, and as I say, you can see more of that sort of like ceiling there that helps the airflow run round, and again the same with the guttering at the top of the roof as well, that takes the air down there. Now here's the thing with it as well, obviously you've got normal locking and unlocking of the car, but for the first time in a G-Wagon you've got keyless entry. You just put your hand sort of like around the handle there, you still get the push button to open it, and of course you still get the big slam of the doors. Proper old school Mercedes-Benz this. My daughter was quite bemused the other night when she was in it, because normally I give her a bit of a telling off for slamming a car door, but I was telling her off the other night for not slamming it because she wasn't shutting it properly. But so yeah, there's a proper old school Mercedes-Benz thunk. I really like that, that's excellent. Of course you get the side running boards down the side there, and then you get to the back here and you get this vent which is slightly enlarged than it used to be to help reduce the pressure, the air pressure inside the car, again to make sure you close the door properly, so that's why there's a slightly bigger vent there. There's also a little vent on this rear wheel arch as well, because again taking airflow down and helping the air back across this rear wheel, so that's why there's a little vent there, rather than have the air come out here and be really properly disrupted. It allows the air to go past the wheel a bit better. But as I say, it's an instantly recognisable car. Let's not get too bogged down in sort of like the, you know, whether or not we think it's a design classic or whether or not they should have done things. Of course, you still get your exposed hinges and stuff like that, as you've always done with the G-Wagon, because it is still just a G-Wagon, and that's why we love them. I do like the back of it. I really think when they updated it, then these sort of small, sort of like almost flush style lights that they did, I think these look really cool. You know, and again, a nice sort of like smoothed over rear bumper that's neatly integrated. And you might be wondering about this. This is the design box, they call it. It is where you store your cables. That's a neat solution, isn't it? You know, 10 kilogram is what it'll take. You store your electric cables in there. I quite like that idea. If you don't like it, you can change it for a full-size wheel cover and have a spare wheel in there. That's quite cool. And I like, again, the way sort of like the rear high-level brake light, again, sits flush with the rear door, which is quite cool. Of course, the only downside is you've got the side opening door, which means you've got to have enough space behind you. If obviously you're parking, you need access into the back. There's a camera just embedded into the rear bumper there, and of course you get your exposed tow hooks and stuff like that. Look, as I say, let's not get bogged down in the design of the car because it's still a G-Wagon, okay? You either like them or you don't. It's a bit like Defender. They were built obviously at a time to suit a purpose. You know, they were a military vehicle, you know, that obviously made their way into sort of like civilian life. You know, as I say, there's plenty of them running around with hideous body kits on them and all the rest of it. But I have to say, the non-AMG G-Wagon that this is, I really like. I think this looks good. I'm not a big lover of the colour of this one, but that's a personal thing. You can get them in other colours. And I have to say, I really quite like the look of it. I really do. I think they've done enough to it to make it be a little bit more modern while still retaining sort of like the styling cues and the originality that made the G-Wagon what the G-Wagon was back originally. But what I think doesn't really matter, does it? It's what you think that matters. So what do you think? Should they have done more to it? Should they have bothered at all? That's the other question that we're probably going to ask throughout this time. You know, is there much point in an electric G-Wagon? Whatever you think, let me know down in the comment section down below. Now, obviously, a G-Wagon is quite a practical thing. As I say, just watch where you're parking when you open that door, because obviously you need a bit of space to get that door open there. 620 litres of luggage space is standard. And if you fold down the split 60-40 rear seat, it will take total capacity up to 1,990, which is a decent size, isn't it? Of course, it is just a big box, let's be perfectly honest with you. The only downside with the low level of the window line, they put the roller blind quite low down. So as you can see, the backs of the rear seats are actually a lot higher than where the roller blind is. So the downside there is when you actually put 4 suitcases in, you can't sort of stand them up if you want. Well, you can, and you could get probably a little bit more in, but it just means that you can't have the roller blind shut. That's the downside. But you can get the 4 suitcases in, as you can see, with plenty of space. And then, you know, room for extra little bags and stuff like, you know, and they can even sit up on the side as well there. So I've got my rucksack in there, I've got my, you know, my mount, my camera mount bag just sort of like tucked up on the side there, so there's plenty of room there for that. If I take these out, you'll be able to see the actual capacity. There's also a load through as well, you know, so if you've got longer items you just need to put through there, that's absolutely fine. The downside is, however, and it's not because of the battery or anything, it's just because it's a G-Wagon. There is a step, you know, so you do, it's not a completely flat floor all the way through when you do fold down the rear seats. But you know, you get something like a little nets on the side there for little bits and pieces. There's no underfloor storage, hence the reason why you've got that design box to keep the cables in. All the battery is underneath the car. That's where all the battery is, effectively, it's underneath the car. But that doesn't impact on its off-road ability. I'll talk about that a bit later. Great big square opening, isn't it? You know, so if you were loading things in, if you're being practical, you know, you've been to, I don't know, Curry's or whatever and bought yourself a new fridge or something like that, you can load it straight in. You know, there's no problems getting that in there. Obviously, there's a bit of height to lift it up to, but it is a flat load entry in from the actual sill as well. So it's a decent amount of space, it's a decently practical car, but then G-Wagons always have been. There's no change there. If there was an area of practicality to criticise, it's back here, believe it or not. It's not the roomiest of cars in the rear, believe it or not. Now this car also has the rear entertainment package fitted. So you do sit quite upright. You really need to put the head restraints up as well to be comfortable. You know, and whilst there is leg room and there's plenty of foot room, I can dance my feet around underneath the seat there. Yeah, it's you know, it doesn't feel big, open and spacious like you get in sort of, you know, for instance, like a big, you know, Range Rover or, you know, even a Defender in some respects, new Defender. These rear entertainment screens, you know, they are quite sort of in your face a little bit, you know, obviously. So you can move them, you can tilt them up and do things like that. So I don't know how much I would actually bother with that, because whilst there's, you know, you'd be better off, I think, you know, being able to get one of those clips that just put on the back of the head restraints and let the kids put their iPads in them, because they'll be more up to date and able to do more things that will be of interest to them, rather than watching your dad go off-roading like you can in here. Anyway, that's by the by. So you can get that, but as I say, it just makes it feel just that little bit tighter in here. And the rear seats, whilst they're okay, they don't feel sumptuous in some respects. You know, you don't sink into them. You know, they don't have, you know, the squabs that come out and sort of like that. But dare I suggest you're not buying a G-Wagon for that, are you? You've got a fold-down armrest, as I say. You've obviously got cup holders in here. There is 4 ports down here, 2 of which are USB-Cs, 2 of which are HDMI units. So that does make me think that you could actually control an external media source from here, but why have the wire plus it? You could just, as I say, do away with that, put the clips in there and just use iPads. There's a fan speed adjustment here, there's temperature adjustment here, and obviously there's 2 vents there as well. You've got the airline style mat pockets on the backs of the seats. There are door bins, but they're quite low down and they're quite tight to get your hand in and out of, and you've also got heating on the outer 2 seats. Isofix points are nice and easy to get to, however, so they're well exposed. So if you're putting children that are still in child seats into the back of the car, that's going to be easy enough to do. I mean, don't get me wrong, as I say, there's still plenty of room. You know, there's certainly plenty of headroom. You know, I'm 5'8", and you could, well, I'm not saying someone would sit on my shoulders, but you know, you'd certainly get, you know, a decent sized top hat in the back of it as well. There's a little step in the sort of like the transmission tunnel there, or what would be a transmission tunnel there, but again, not a huge amount. It wouldn't stop sort of like getting a third person in the back there. But yeah, let's just say there are bigger cars in the back than the G-Wagon, okay? But that applies to all G-Wagons, not just the electric one. Right, interior. I'm going to be honest and say this is a bit of a mixed bag for me. Now, on the whole, it's good, okay? On the whole, very, very good. Obviously, the same as the exterior and the same as a lot of things, when they've updated the G-Wagon, the main thing they've done is really bring the interior up to date. And of course, you get the brilliant MBUX information screen right across here, and it just seems to, it doesn't look out of place. It looks normal. It looks like it, you know, like you get some cars that have had screens added and you think, oh, they've just plunked a screen onto the dash. This looks really nicely and neatly integrated into what is quite an old-fashioned dashboard in some respects, and I think it looks great. I really do. That's the bit I really like. The bit I'm just a little bit dubious about, and especially when we discuss price a bit later, just this silvery plastic here. Now come on, Mercedes, I'm sure there's a better solution than this. This silver plastic that surrounds the vents and goes across the dash and up here, and of course it's in your line of sight, so you see it all the time, and I just feel it looks really cheap. I never liked this painted silver plastic when you did it on the SLK way back when, and I still don't like it on a Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. I think there's a better solution out there, and I think you should find it, because to me that just detracts from what is actually quite a nice cabin overall. The rest of it works really well. There's a good amount of physical buttons on the car, that's what I will say. You know, so this bit here, you've got, this is I think on the petrol and diesel ones where all your low range stuff is. It is here as well. So there's a low range button there. There's a thing that it does called a tank turn and a G-turn. I'll talk about those a bit later on. That's where those buttons are. And if you press this off-road cockpit, you can see up there, depending obviously on what you're in, it shows you either sort of like, you know, the down below the car with the camera, so if you're off-road you can see what you're doing, and there's other various bits and pieces that it does as well. You know, you've got your inclinometer there as well, and tyre pressures, and you know, that's it. There's also a track thing, where in other words, you know, if you drive along a track, the car can learn the track, and you know, to help the electronics and stuff like that. And then there's an Explorer function as well. So there's lots of off-road stuff in there as well, because this is a very serious off-road car, which we will discuss when we're out driving it. The actual MBUX system as well, you know, the touch screen, I really like. I think it's excellent. It's always been very good in pretty much all the Mercedes-Benz cars. Plus you can obviously get things such as wireless Apple CarPlay, you get Android Auto as well, which you can see there. There's a wireless charging pad down in here for your mobile too, so that's in there. You also can use this touch pad as well, so this sort of like track pad, you can just swipe across that. And then when you sort of, you know, like an Apple mouse, like a magic mouse, and then when you get to the bit you want to go into, you just press it, he says. Yeah, there you go, you just press it and choose which one you want. Then there's your return button there, there's your home button, and you can also do your track search on there as well. It's a bit fiddly, takes a little bit of time to do, especially if you're right-handed like me, but you know, you're getting to use with your left hand, but you know, it's pretty good. But there's still an awful lot of physical buttons around it as well, which is good. And as I say, because it's a touch screen, you know, even your passenger can just lean across and use their, you know, the right hand to go through that. So this is very good, and I do like it. And of course, you get your usual brilliant Mercedes-Benz navigation system. You know, you get all sorts of different sort of apps that you can have in the car as well. So it's really sort of like modernised the interior of the G. Then you get your instrumentation panel here, which again, I think, if memory serves me correctly, oh, hang on a second, you can also, it's over in this one, isn't it? There we go. You can change the, you can change what you see there. So if you want to put your off-road dials in the driver cluster, you can do that. You can also, in our way as well, you can do navigation across there as well, so you can pop the map up there. So if you're using that for media or something else, you can do that. And then you can have your classic dials, your sport dials, or the very understated ones, which are very, very minimal. So depending on what you want, I quite like it just having the classic dials. That's the only thing I will say on this. This steering wheel, this new 3-spoke steering wheel, this sort of like the double spokes there. See that? I mean, they've got these capacitive buttons, and anything you know, like you know, that has the ferocity of a breath will change it. You've got to be really careful. The number of times I was trying to use track search on this the other day, I was driving down the motorway and I was listening to my Spotify and a couple of track searches, and just you thought you were getting it right, and then all of a sudden it changed completely over. It just, you've got to really watch what you do, because as I say, they're so sensitive. The volume one's not so bad, it's down here, that's quite easy, that's just literally stroking your thumb. But changing the 4-way adjustment, see, look, I barely touched that and all of a sudden it's changed something. That's what I mean. You've got to be really, really careful that it really it interacts quite well with that. So just physical buttons would be really nice, Mercedes. And then you get your usual 1-column stock, you know, sort of like over this side for pretty much everything. So indicators and wipers and main beam, that's all in there. And then the other stock over here is actually your transmission. Light switches down by your right knee, along with an electronic park brake as well. All your seat controls are on the door panel there, as well as ventilated and heated seats as well. The other thing with this car is it's got the dynamic bolster in the seats, which I have to admit I found quite irritating, but some people might like it. So if you're, you know, you're hustling it down a bit of a road, because obviously you've got quite a bit of roll in it, what it would do is it start pumping up either side of the bolster to hold you more in place. I turned it off, to be honest with you, but if you like it, it's there, it's got it. And then there's this bank of your climate control buttons down here. So of course you get temperature either side, and then you get a climate menu button. You can bring it up here, so you can change the climate in the second row of seats. You can talk about the air quality in the car as well. You can set direction flow up on here and temperature as well, or you can do it from down here. You know, you can adjust your fan speed, you go into auto, your temperature and your air recirculation. So there's a lot of physical buttons available in the car, which is good. Nice little scroll volume wheel here, so you don't have to use that. Again, your passengers can use it. Turn the volume of your radio up. There's your drive mode button there, your dynamics, and then of course you get things such as your parking cameras there, so you can see what it's doing, you see, and you can zoom right into either side of the car. So again, if you're using it off-road, or you're maybe, you know, I don't know, a tight forest track and there's some tree stumps or whatever like that, you can actually see where they are going down the road. And then you've got one at the front and obviously one at the back as well, and then you can have your 3D parking camera view as well, you see. It's really clever stuff, considering, dare I suggest, it's such an old car, and sort of like, you know, on the face of it, but it's got all this mod cons in it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's like, you know, turning sort of like an old Georgian, you know, sort of like terraced house into sort of like, you know, a smart home by adding loads of stuff into it. It's very good. And actually, I have to say, Mercedes-Benz, the most of the stuff is really simple to use. Oh, it thinks I'm asking it to do the voice activation. Cancel. Because I said the name of the car. So yeah, it's really very good, I have to say, and it's all quite easy to use once you get used to it. The steering wheel, apart from the buttons, is quite a nice steering wheel. It's almost round, it's quite a nice size, you know, especially for the size of the car. You know, it's not overtly large like Mercedes-Benz wheels used to be. You know, it's leather wrapped as well with the perforated bits at the side, almost round, it's just slightly flattened off at the bottom. The seats are excellent, absolutely superb, these seats. They've got so much adjustment on them. You can move this, you know, electrically move the squab out underneath you. You can adjust them all sorts of ways. You've got electric adjustment of the head restraint as well, and as I say, you've got ventilated and heated seats, plus you've got that, as I say, that lumbar massage function. You've got active bolsters. You're not going to find a problem with the seats, let's just say that. You've also got an excellent Burmester 3D sound system, which is incredible. The volume of it and the clarity of it's really very good. And as I say, the rest of the cabin, away from this silver plastic here, is nice. You know, the big chunky door handles you get here, the big leather wrapped pull handles on the side there, the fact that it's leather on top of the door, it's just a nice height. You've got this leather armrest there. You know, it's a really comfortable driving position. You know, it's not like a Defender used to be, you know, you can't sit with your arm out. You really can get a comfortable driving position. There's also an electric steering column as well as the electric seats. That moves in and out for you depending obviously how you want it. There's a cup holder and a bottle holder here, which also has a cooling function, so on either side. So for instance, if I want to keep my water bottle nice and chilled, I can actually activate a cooling function just on that one, so that will keep that chilled now while keeping my coffee you know, normal temperature. There's storage in here for your Mars bars and your little teasers. You know, I've got my sunglasses in there, which have just fallen out of the case. Good sized door bins as well. There's a glove box, superb. Standard size sunroof. Genuinely can't find any real fault with the functionality of the interior. The aesthetics I like the design of. I just don't like this. This is the only thing for me. You know, even to be fair, where I've criticised the sort of like the turbine air vents in some of the lower spec cars that feel quite cheap, on this one they don't. They feel quite nice. So it's such a shame that they're embedded in this piece of plastic. And I do wonder whether or not there's a company out there that does. You know, obviously there's loads of companies that do conversions on G-Wagons, you know, body kits and stuff like that. And I do wonder whether or not that is something that I would do if I had one of these, is change that for either, you know, have it wrapped in leather or, you know, I don't know. The wood, this wood's nice. I quite like this open pore wood, but you know, if they had it in a, I don't know, a carbon fibre, just something, but just this cheap silver plastic that's in your eye line, I just find a little bit, it's at odds with the rest of the car, because the rest of the interior is, as I say, you think it's just quite plain and basic and, you know, old-fashioned, but actually it really works well, especially the MBUX stuff, especially the dials in front of you. And there's just the right amount of physical buttons around the car, and there's just loads of tech on it. It's just a shame it falls short with that bit there. Other than that, I actually really like the cabin of the car. I really can't fault it, except for that silver plastic. Now, the G580 with EQ technology is equipped with a 116 kilowatt hour battery, and it should give, according to WLTP figures, a range of up to 283 miles. And you're going to think, well, that's farcical for a, you know, for a battery that size, you know, but bear in mind we're talking about a car that weighs a huge amount, and obviously, as I say, has all the aerodynamic qualities of the White Cliffs of Dover. 200 kilowatts is your maximum charging speed, meaning you can go from a 10 to 80% charge in 32 minutes. So not bad, not fantastic, but you know, not horrific in that sense. And it also comes with onboard 11 kilowatt charging on the AC as standard. So if you've got on a 3-phase electric wall box at home, then you can take a full charge in just over 12 and a bit hours. Obviously, if it's a standard 7 kilowatt like mine, it's going to take a lot longer. Now, normally when we get one of these big all-electric SUVs, and you tend to find they've got dual motor, they're all-wheel drive, they've got dual motors, one on the front axle, one on the back axle. Not the G580, no, it doesn't have 2 electric motors, it doesn't have 3 electric motors, it has 4, and each motor controls each wheel. So the combined power output is 587 horsepower. This thing will do 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds. Now, bearing in mind this thing's over 3 tons in weight, and it has the aerodynamic qualities of the White Cliffs of Dover. That is a seriously impressive stat, I would suggest. But you know what? Irrespective of that, irrespective of the power and stuff, that's not what impresses about the G580. And trust me, it does impress, okay? So where you think it's going to impress, off-road, it does, okay? Now, Today, I've not had the chance to take the car off-road while I've been filming today. I've got it for another couple of days. I am quite busy. If I do get the opportunity, then I may try and put some B-roll into this. But let me explain to you a little bit later about the off-road ability the car has, okay? So I'll talk you through that in a second. I want to talk about where you think it would be probably quite terrible on-road. And you know what? It's not. It's really good on road. Now, like the Toyota Land Cruiser that I reviewed over on House of Cars, this thing has a ladder frame chassis. So you've got a body on frame construction, okay? So you will always get that little bit of a shimmy with it, okay? You go over, you're maybe in the middle of a bend and you hit a bump or whatever, or just a bit of expansion joint, you can feel the little shimmy. You will never get away from that, really, truly, no matter how well engineered it is. A car that's on a ladder frame chassis will always have that, okay? What is impressive though is how much they've isolated away from the cabin, okay? In terms of suspension noise, in terms of actual noise. I mean, I was showing you earlier in terms of trying to make it more aerodynamic, what they've done down the windscreen pillars at the top of the windscreen rails. They've added a load of sound deadening as well. It's, you know, the batteries and the motors are all encased and everything. Honestly, this thing is really refined. Surprisingly refined, considering that it is literally just a cliff face hitting the wind. Now that beep noise you're hearing there is the speed limit warning. You can turn that off by just pressing and holding the mute button on the steering wheel, and it turns it off. A couple of seconds it turns it off. Simple as that. Really like that. I took the car on the motorway the other day, down the M25, down the M23. I was going to Crawley, just outside Gatwick, to film with the new Toyotas. And I did spend all morning and then all afternoon the way back on the motorway. I was really shocked at how nice this car felt on the motorway, how quiet it was, how comfortable it felt, especially on that concrete section that's round by me. You always get massive a load of tyre roar on it, but no. I mean, it was there, you could hear it, but not in the same way you get with some cars. So that's the thing that really impressed me. Now the only downside is obviously because of the shape of the car being like a brick, it annihilates its range at constant high speed. So if you're driving on motorways all day, you'll just annihilate the range. But let's be honest, you're not buying a G-Wagon at £175,000 expecting it to be efficient, are you? You're not buying a petrol one expecting good miles per gallon economy. So you wouldn't expect the electric one to be any different, and it's not. You're buying it because it's a G-Wagon, and there it doesn't let you down. The other thing that where it's good as well, oddly enough, is actually round town, because you sit so high up in effectively a square box, you can see every single extremity of the car. Well, like forward, I can see the tops of those marker lights there. I turn round, I can see the back of the car. I look in the rear view mirror, I can see the end of that design box. I know exactly where the end of the car is. It makes it really easy to park. It makes it really easy to sort of like place down city streets or round about town, you know, in the supermarket, whatever. I mean, odd, isn't it? You think a car this size that should not be a good town car, but it is because of the way it looks. And it's not uncomfortable. As I say, you've got a really nice compliancy in the suspension, the spring. They have made it softer, and I'm pleased they have. Again, the flip side is there is a little bit more wallow as you go. See there? You get a bit more wallow as you go into the roundabout, and because they've got that little ridge across there, it just does that little shimmy. You've got to just deal with that because of the way the car's constructed. But as I say, the flip side of that is incredible off-road ability. Let me talk about the off-road ability now. So because you've got 4 individual motors, they can control the 4 individual wheels, okay? It has a couple of little party pieces, and I'm sure if you've looked at this car on other YouTube channels, you'll know about them. They've all got a G something, a G name with them. So first of all, you've got G-turn. Okay, so you've got G-turn, which is effectively where the motors will counter rotate the wheels on opposite sides, where the car can actually turn on its own axis. That can do a 360-degree spin standing still. It can actually do 2 of them standing still. Why would you have that? Okay, well, maybe if you were, I don't know, if you were green laning or something, or you went down the wrong way, down a forest track, and you get to the end and there's nowhere to turn and you need to come back because it's a dead end, I suppose arguably you could do that there. I think it's a bit more of a showy off thing personally, but it's got it and it can do it. The other thing that it has is G-Steer, and I do see the point of that. So again, let's take the scenario, you're going down you know, an off-road track, you get to the end, there's a tight turn at the end where you'd maybe have to do, you know, take a couple of swings at it to get it round. What you can do is activate the G-Steer and it will lock an inside rear wheel. So effectively then, and it will power up the other wheel at the back and the front too, and it will make a tighter turning circle to get the car round like a, you know, a fence post or a gate post. Really clever stuff, and this is what I'm talking about. Sorry, I'm just about to go through my width restriction, which is quite easy in this G-Class because I can see all the extremities, he says, and I'll carve a wheel, watch this. This is the thing that gets me about this car. It's not just a G-Wagon with a couple of electric motors in it. Mercedes-Benz have properly engineered this thing and properly engineered it to work off-road. It's probably the best G-Wagon for off-roading because it's got a bigger wading depth as well, 850mm wading depth, 150mm more than you get out the combustion engine car. I'm really impressed with it. I genuinely booked it thinking it's going to be a bit daft and a bit silly, but want to be a bit of a laugh. And yet the more I drive it, the more I live with it, the more I think, wow, what an incredible tool of a car. Absolutely incredible this thing is. It's just so capable. I can't think of a scenario where you'd be stuck in this car. It also has a thing called rock crawl. Now, a lot of off-roaders do have things like hill descent control and things like that, and, you know, and it's not massively different to that. But what you have with rock crawl is the ability to have effectively an off-road cruise control. So again, you've got a bit of a slippery track, or you're going over some, you know, sort of like a real tricky bit of situation with some rocks or some stony ground or whatever, and you need to be a bit more careful on the throttle. You know, a full throttle application is not going to work. You activate rock crawl, and what the car does is it maintains a steady speed for you. It does. And there's 3 settings. There's slow, normal, I think there's an adaptive one as well. And again, the car does it all for you. So you take your feet off the pedals and all you do is turn the wheels. That's it. It's so clever. I keep going back to this. I can't get over the fact that Mercedes-Benz have built this car. I really can't. And as I say, you know, it'd been very easy just to throw out the V8 and go a couple electric motors, job done, big battery, and let it go, and that's it. They haven't. They've really gone back to the drawing board with it and gone, right, how can we make this a proper usable G-Wagon? Because G-Wagon is, you know, a bit like Defender, a little bit like, you know, like Land Cruiser. It's renowned as being a capable off-road car. So any diminishment of those capabilities isn't going to wash with G-Wagon customers. But they seem to have gone to even bigger lengths to make it even better, to make it even more capable. And I just think it's brilliant. I absolutely 100% love this car. It's just, it makes no sense whatsoever. There is no rational cause to buy this car, but then there's no rational cause to buy a G-Wagon anyway, but people do. And now they have another choice. Now they have another choice to face when they go into the Mercedes-Benz showroom. Do I buy a petrol? Do I buy a diesel? Or do I buy electric? And if you go down the route of buying electric, please be on the understanding that you are not going to feel shortchanged in any way, shape or form, because this thing is absolutely 100% bona fide brilliant. I love this car. I absolutely love it. It's mad, it makes no sense, but it is absolutely bloody brilliant. And it's from Mercedes-Benz. Now, you'd think a car like this would be absolutely ideal for towing things such as horse boxes, boats. You know, if you had a boat, you know, dinghy or whatever, a sailboat, whatever, you know, you go off to the coast for the weekend and you want to tow it down there and put it in the water or whatever. You'd think. The problem is the weight of this car. This car is so heavy, it's over 3 tons. Any weight that you put onto this car could potentially put you into a different class or needing a different class of driving license to tow with it. So any notions you have about buying an electric G-Wagon to take you and your family in your big 6-berth caravan or your lovely sailing boat down to the Solent and popping it in the water, think again, because its maximum towing weight on this car is less than 500 kilos thanks to the weight of it. Oh, right, price. Well, I would say if you have to ask, then obviously, well, no, that'd be unfair. Look, it starts from just under £155,000 for the G580 with EQ technology, which is a little bit more than you'd have to spend on a G400D with a diesel engine and a G500 with petrol, but not as much as you'd have to spend on the AMG, okay? As tested, this car here is £173,860, and I can almost hear some people just cry, that is ludicrous, that's extortionate, why would you ever spend that? You can spend over £200,000 on an AMG G63. So in some respects, whilst it's more expensive than the diesel and petrol in the lower range, it's not as expensive as some of the higher end petrol stuff. And as I say, G-Wagon these days is bought very much as a lifestyle product. It's a luxury product, so therefore it commands a luxury price tag. So irrespective of what you think, that is the price of a G-Wagon. Now, competition. What is the competition for this car? Genuinely, let's have a think about that, because, well, Range Rover are about to bring out the Range Rover Electric, which obviously is going to be a very expensive motor car, but this is not a rival for a Range Rover, because the Range Rover is very much a luxury car these days. You know, it's got acres of room in the back, you know, it's almost limousine-like. So I don't think a Range Rover buyer is going to seriously consider a G-Wagon, nor something like a Bentley Bentayga. I don't think drivers of Bentley Bentagas are going to consider G-Wagons. And obviously it's more expensive than things such as, you know, BMW iX and Mercedes Zone EQS, which again, you know, is more of a luxury SUV. I'll tell you what I think the competition for the G-Wagon electric is. It's other G-Wagons. I genuinely do think that. I think the only competition that the G580 has are things like whether or not people that are walking into Mercedes-Benz are going to order one with either diesel or petrol engines, or now they've got the third option, they've got electric to have as well. So that is what I think the competition for the G580 with EQ technology is. It's either a G400D or a G500 V8 or a G63 AMG. Irrespective, the only competition the G-Wagon faces is from G-Wagons. So here's what we like, and also what we don't like about the new Mercedes-Benz G580 with EQ technology. Well, we like its design, the quality of the engineering. It's more refined than you think. It's almost unstoppable off-road. And apart from the plastics on the dashboard, the build quality is proper old school Mercedes-Benz. We don't like, well, the aforementioned plastics on the dashboard just mar what we think is a really good interior. Rear seat space isn't as good as you would think, considering the size of car. There's no getting away from the fact that it's inefficient thanks to its aerodynamics and weight. It can't tow due to the weight of the car. And of course, it is eye-wateringly expensive. This is a silly car. It's an absolutely ridiculous car. And for that reason, and that reason alone, I think it's wonderful. If you were expecting me in some respects to give this a sort of like a proper verdict on whether or not I think this is a sensible purchase for some people out there, you're going to be disappointed, because if you judge it on the criteria that we normally judge cars on AutoEV, you'd never buy it. It's just absolutely, it's terribly inefficient, it's way too expensive, it's actually not that big in the back, it's terrible at certain things. And yet it's also wonderful at the same time. The great thing about this car is the fact that it exists at all. The fact that Mercedes-Benz took the time and, dare I suggest, the budget and engineering know-how to create an electric G-Wagon, to give people who are G-Wagon customers another choice, I think deserves applause. I really genuinely do, because that is the people that this car will appeal to. The people that are already decided, we're going to buy a G-Wagon, we just need to make sure which one we want. And of course now they've got a choice of three. They've got a choice of petrol, they've got a choice of diesel, and now they have electric. The fact that actually the electric one in some respects could potentially be the best G-Wagon of them all because of the electronics, because of the technology that's underneath it, is absolutely incredible. It's both awful and wonderful at the same time. And for that reason, and that reason alone, I think this car is absolutely bloody marvellous. I really do. Thank you for watching another road test review on AutoEV. Please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, and then when you've done that, make sure you press the little bell button down below, because that turns on your notifications so you get an alert when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you have enjoyed this week's review, then make sure you give a little thumbs up for me, and of course, as always, don't forget, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Are you with me? Are you just thinking it's so idiotically stupid, it's brilliant? Or are you just thinking, what a waste of time? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section down below. Have you got a G-Wagon? Would you trade it in for an electric one now? Let me know down in the comment section. Now remember, we're across on all social media platforms as well. So if you're into your Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok, your X, your LinkedIn, you'll find us over there as well. So if you want to give us a follow there, we'd certainly appreciate it. And remember, if you're in the marketplace for an electric car, might not be a new Mercedes-Benz G580 with EQ technology. Maybe you're thinking about, oh, I don't know actually, maybe you're thinking about a used Mercedes-Benz EQC. They're good value for money now. But you need to know a bit more about it and obviously what we thought about it. How do you find out? Well, here's how. Stay on the AutoEV homepage on the YouTube channel. And just at the top there, you'll see a little magnifying glass. If you type the name of the car you're interested in there, and of course, if it's been a new electric car in the UK in the last 6 years, we've subjected it to the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle. And that, believe it or not, folks, is the AutoEV one. All that remains for me to say is thank you once again for watching. Thank you for your continued support. I'll see you again soon.